So that e-commerce website was in English. Okay. Now your company had some survey, and after survey, you got to know that people in your country normally speak other languages, or they understand other languages other than English. For example, few people understand, most of the people understand Hindi. Few people understand and speak Gujarati. Few people understand and speak, say, Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, different languages, right? Marwadi, etc. Now, based on that survey, you got to know that, okay, in case if we change our website from only English to other languages also, then other people will also be able to utilize the experience of your company. So you are delivering something, okay, and then you want that other people will also be able to use it. So that is the scenario, okay. And so in this particular case, which what AI scenario or what AI tool you will be able to use? That's the question. So what is your answer? Language dimension API call. So what all options we discussed last time? So last time we discussed, just a quick recap. We discussed about Azure Board Services. We discussed about Azure Machine Learning. We discussed about Azure Cognitive Services, right? These are the three things we discussed, correct? So in this particular case, what do you think? Which AI service we will be able to use? Azure Cognitive Services, okay. So anybody else? So first, is your company building a virtual agent? Okay. Azure Cognitive Services, okay. So how we come to, how we reach to this particular decision? So first of all, because you decided, this is an e-commerce website, right? So your company building a virtual agent that interface with the human via natural language? No, it is not. So Azure Board Services are not a good candidate for this scenario, right? However, should your company ever implement a customer service agent, it might want to consider using the translator API to provide the real-time translation to help customers who are not English speaker, right? Second, does your company need a service that can understand the content and meaning of images, video, audio, or translate text into different languages? Yes, that is the need. So if anybody will speak any other language other than English, or if anybody, then whatever is written or whatever is there on your website and which is written in English, you need to translate that and you need to give it to your customer so that your customer can understand. So that is the scenario here. So you need a kind of translator built in your in your e-commerce website, which can translate whatever is there on the company's website, and it can translate that into a respective language based on the feed of the customer. So translating textual content from one language to another is basically a general purpose task that you can simplify by using Azure Cognitive Services, because your Azure Cognitive Services translator processes the video, audio, and text. So because it is, I mean, with the help of I mean, you are able to translate video, audio, and text. So you will be using Azure Cognitive Services, right? So the service is easy to integrate into your application, website, tools, and solution. It allows you to add multilingual user experience in more than 60 languages. And you can use it to any hardware platform with any operating system for text to text language translation. So whatever be your text of your e-commerce website, say in English, you will be translate that to other languages. So finally, will your company app need to predict future outcome? No. So that is not the case here. So you are not going to predict the future outcome. So although it's possible to create a machine learning model for multilingual translation, but that would be expensive and time consuming, right? So although you can use the machine learning, but that would be expensive and time consuming because you already have a cognitive service with you. So therefore, you need to stick to, because when you are applying for the machine learning, your company need to attempt to the translating models with the help of deep learning, right? And when you will go for the deep learning, competency, then it it will be difficult to implement. So therefore, the best option here would be Azure Cognitive Services, right? Now, suppose another scenario. Suppose there is an e-commerce website that allows its customer to browse and purchase items that can be delivered or picked up from a retail store nearest to their location. So you have your e-commerce website that allow its customer to browse and purchase items that can be delivered or picked up from the retail store nearest to their location. Now, the marketing team is convinced that it can increase sale dramatically by suggesting add-on products that complement the item in the shopper's cart at the point of checkout. So, marketing team is thinking that in case if you wanted to increase the sale, you can say that you can provide the complement item in the shopper's cart, right? The item could hard code these suggestions, but it feels that a more organic approach would be to use its worth of sale. Okay, so in this particular case, the new shopping trend, but once, but suggestion, okay, and then you are thinking that the new shopping trend to decide what product to display to the shoppers. Additionally, the suggestion could be influenced by the product availability, product profitability, and other factors. So the marketing team, existing data science expert, have already done some initial analysis of the problem domain and have determined that its plan might take months to prototype and possibly a year to roll out. So in this particular case, which AI service you would be using? So we already solved one scenario. Now this is an another scenario, right? So the simple thing is that you want to give suggestion to your customer, those who are purchasing the product from retail stores, and you are delivering them. So you are you wanted to give them suggestion for an add-on product. Okay, that okay, in case if they want they can also purchase this item. Okay, Azure boat service. Anybody else? Okay. So Parvez is saying about the boat service. Anybody else? You understood the example or you understood the scenario? Scenario 1 we already discussed, right? And we also discussed why why we selected for Azure Cognitive Service. Now next is scenario 2. So for scenario 1, it was Azure Cognitive Service. What about scenario 2? So see, whenever we are deciding for a boat service, we think that particularly the boat means virtual agent. So a virtual agent would be needed, okay, where the virtual agent is interacting with the human and saying that okay, they first understand it, what they want, they provide suggestion, and then they transfer that information back to their customer and also with their customer care department. In this particular case, you want to suggest a product, okay? So particularly Azure boat service is not a good candidate for the scenario because you are not trying to solve a problem, you are just giving them a suggestion that okay, you are purchasing, for example, you are purchasing some food item, or if you are purchasing some medicine, so along with that medicine, other medicine can go, and normally people buy that based on the people buying pattern or based on the need of the people. Then accordingly you can you can do that. Okay, now in this particular case, now second, does your company need a service that can understand the content and meaning of image, video, audio translator, or sorry, a text to translate it? No, because here you are, the customer is not providing or feeding any video, audio, or text. That is not also a need. Third, does your company need to predict user behavior or provide users with a personalized recommendation? Yes, right? So here the need is to predict the behavior of the user based on the past experience and provide the personalized recommendation. However, creating recommendation based on the user behavior is only part of the requirement. Your company needs to create a complex model that incorporate historical sales data, it need to analyze historical sales data, sales trend data. It also need to analyze the inventory and the pricing. It's possible that the Azure Cognitive Service Personalizer service could play a role, but it couldn't handle the entire breadth of the project alone. So initially we can think of Azure Cognitive Services could be, but this particular need has a this particular scenario has a wide range. So it need to analyze the historical data, the trend, the profitability indexes. Then it need to see the market availability of the product, and then it need to provide the suggestion. So now in this particular case, your company app predicts the future outcome based on the private historical data. Yes, that is the need. And that is why in this scenario, Azure machine learning is likely to be the best choice. Although because if you do it yourself, you will take a lot of time. But in case if you will use the Azure machine learning capabilities, then you will be able to easily, comparatively, it will be easier to do that rather than you build the service from the scratch. So the success of this effort would depend primarily on the ability of the model to select precisely the right, um, the right upscale product to suggest to the shopper, because the model would need to be tweaked and tuned over time, right? So you can opt for Azure machine learning model, and then you need to provide your sales data. You need to continuously train that model, and once the model would be in the good shape, then you can roll out. So the only need here would be to train the existing model and tweak it according to your requirement. So you may need to change a little bit, and then your model which is available on the Azure, and then you need to train it so that you can fit your need. So here, particularly for this particular scenario, the best option would be to choose Azure machine learning, right? Now the third. So here, Azure machine learning. Is it clear? Is it clear? Any question you may be having? Okay. Now the third scenario. Anybody else? Now this scenario is for everyone. Now this is the simplest one. The customer service team has long asked for a virtual agent to handle the vast majority of the question. It get asked, no matter how prominent it makes the answer to the most frequently asked question on the website. Shoppers are impatient and perceive content in a chat window as saving them time, right? So the team wants shoppers to feel as though they are interacting with the real human. When it becomes clear that the virtual agent can't provide an answer, the chat session should be transferred to a human. So till then, some virtual agent would be needed, of course. So now this is clear. Okay. So we have discussed the scenario where we will be using which type of service. Now we are going for, so we have covered the Azure cognitive services. Sorry, we have covered about the Azure AI things, and under that three type of services, we have also discussed about Azure IoT services. Now we are going to do some interesting things before we proceed further. So although we have discussed about Azure functions, but we will discuss it little, in little more detail. But before that, so now we have two topics. One is about the Azure functions in little more detail, where, I mean, which means that our Azure logic apps and all that. But before that, and we will also discuss about Azure DevOps. But before that, I would like to give you some practical experience. Okay. So now on daily basis, now our focus would be to do some practical. So we will take one practical and then one theory. Okay. So that it will continuously will not be a theory practice anymore. Okay. So let us start doing the practical work. So now we will be doing Azure VM, virtual machines. So there are two things here. One is Azure virtual machine, and second about Azure web app. What do you think? Which we should be doing first? What's your choice? Azure VM. Okay. So let us do a first quick recap, and then we will expand this session. Okay. So for Azure VM, let me quickly see. So I'm going to launch Azure Portal. Okay. Okay. Let me know in case if you can see my screen. Okay. Are you able to see it? So before we proceed further, first of all, I would like to thank Venkat for providing his support for this particular section. Even particularly for this month, because for this month we are doing the practical based on, because he provided us this facility. Okay, so we all need to thank Venkat for the same. So okay, you remember last time we discussed few things. We discussed about Azure Portal. So how your portal look like is this. Your portal is having the Azure services, and then you are having the recent resources, and then you are having the navigator. So how you will be able to navigate? Then you are having tools, and then you are having some of the links. So this is how your portal looks. Okay. Now, based on this, you are having we discussed about the subscription, we discussed about the resource group, we discussed about the dashboard also in our past, but now we will be doing the practical of each of each of these things. Okay, today we will also discuss about the virtual machine, how we can create and how we can do it, that we will discuss. Okay, but before that we need to think of, we need to understand that what when we are entering into this, we know that this is a 1 month um, uh, 1 month access we are having as a free, right? So how we will be able to see it, and how we will be able to see the its related things. So this is your dashboard. On this dashboard you can see that what all services are running, what all services are not. Okay, so for example, this service is running, so we need to stop it first. But from here, from your dashboard, you will be able to see all the things. Okay, whatever the things whatever the things has been created, you will be able to see them. Now here, in case if you want, you can create a new resource. So the first thing which we do once we enter into a subscription, the first thing which we do is to create a resource group, right? But before that, we also need to understand which subscription do we have, what type of this subscription is, where are we, right? So in order to see that, how we will be able to see that? Using the subscriptions. So in the subscription, you can see that it is a free trial, right? And you will be able to see that in this free trial, when this free trial got started and how we are using it. Okay, so this is a free trial, and it also reflect about the cost, and it also reflect about the usage. Now, in this particular, so I mean, this is how you will be able to see your subscription. What type of subscription is this, and what are things are here? Since this is a 1 month subscription, so after a particular period of time, right, it automatically expires, and it will no longer be available for us. Okay, so better in this particular case that we should be able to do the things. Okay, but since it is a free trial, even though it is I mean, whatever cost incur here, we will not be, I mean, we are not supposed to pay it, but during this particular period of time, we need to practice it, that how we will be able to do it. So in our normal life, that will not happen. So we continuously need to monitor that, okay, what cost is coming up and how much we need to pay, right? So we always need to look into this particular subscription and its cost by resources, and then we should be able to block them. We should be able to not use, I mean, we should be able to stop the services in case if we are not using any. So from the subscription page, you will be able to do that now. And so suppose we are having VM. So this VM is stopped. It's no, I mean, no longer working. Now we have web app. That is also known. I mean, that also be stopped. So it is also not working. Then we have, what else we have? So let us see it. Storage. Okay, storage is not applicable. You can see there is no start and stop here. So storage is always associated with something. So this is also not working, right? So this is how you can go and check every resource, that in case if I mean, in case if any resource is having, I mean, in case if any resource is occurring any cost, or if, in case if that, I mean, that resource is particularly running or not. Okay, so you will be able to see by going into each and every this thing. Okay, now next is the resource groups. So what all resource groups do we have? So the first thing is that these are the resource group which got created either manually or by Azure itself. Okay, now each resource group. So let us go into a resource group, for example. Now in this resource group, you can see it has create, manage, delete, refresh, and other stuff. But there is nothing for start and stop. So which means that resource group, you can't start and stop. But you need to create a resource group. Why we are creating a resource group? Why it is mandatory to create a resource group first? We discussed about resource group, right? Anybody?
That we can group services together.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, resource group are group the services together if you want.
Are you speaking to me? Because I'm not able to hear you properly.
I think that resource group can be used for the grouping of services.
And anybody else can hear? Sorry, it was very difficult. Who was speaking? Okay, Soumya. Okay. Yes, tell me, Soumya.
We can use it for logical grouping of resources which we want to.
Yes, logical grouping of resources. But why we need to do it? Why we need a logical grouping?
We can like for services related to each other under one tag, and if you want to remove them, you can remove them altogether in one go.
Sorry, it's difficult to hear you, but I will try. Okay, can you speak up again? Little slow so that I can understand.
That logical, we can keep the resources under one tag in the with the help of logical group, and if you want to remove the resources, we can group like all logical related components under one interface completely together.
Yes. So the biggest reason why we need a resource group is certainly it is a logical container. It's a logical entity or logical group under which we need to keep our resources. But why? What is the biggest use of the resource group, right? So the biggest use of the resource group is that it has a life cycle, and that life cycle, so the resource group get created, it is staying, and all the product which are within that resource group are I mean can remain in that resource group till the time that resource group exists. So it has the same life cycle, the start and the end, right? So in case instead of, suppose you wanted to get rid of those resources, now you look into this. I have a resource group called Girish VM. It has VNet, it has VM, it has IP address, it has the security group, it has network interface, it has disk. So it has multiple resources into it. Now, if you want to get rid of these resources, one way is that you select one resource and you delete it. Okay. Then you go and select another resource and you delete it. Another easier way is that you delete this resource group and completely. And the moment you delete the resource group, all the resources within it will go off. So with the death of this particular resource group, rest everything will also go off. Okay. So a resource group is a container that hold related resources for Azure solution. The resource group include resources that you want to manage as a group. So you are managing these resources as a group. You decide which resource belong to a resource group based on what make most sense for your organization. Azure resource group are the fundamental element of the Azure platform. A resource group is a logical container for resources deployed on Azure. These resources are anything you create in your Azure subscription. For example, as I shown you, the VM, the VNet, the card, the disk, the gateway, the DBs, etc. All these resources must be in a resource group, and a resource can only be member of a single resource group. So one resource can only reside in one resource group. Many resources can be moved, but moved from resource group with some services having some specific limitation or requirement to move. Resources can't be nested. So you can't have the one resource group within another resource group. So your resource group can't be nested. But you can move the resources from one resource group to another resource group based on certain conditions. That is applicable. However, well, in case if you are removing a particular resource group, then your resource, then the resources which are there in that particular group will also get removed. So resource group exists, resource group exists to help manage and organize your Azure resources by placing resources of a similar usage type. So you have a similar usage type or location. These are the criteria. You can make a resource group based on the usage, based on type, or based on location in a resource group. You can provide order and organization to resources you create in Azure. So you can also, via command line, you will also be able to easily, create it. So for example, if you are creating a resource group like this, now you can create a template of it, entire resource group template. So once your template will get created, you will be able to deploy the same resource group once again with the same set of resources within it. So it is not just only for the sake of deletion, but you will also be able to export this resource group, and then you will be able to import it back. You will be also able to create a template out of it, and then you will be able to create the same thing over and over again. Okay, so just by using a resource group as an entity, you will be able to create the resources again by first of all, you create the resources systematically, with a particular, whatever be your need, right? Whatever be your business need. And then you export it out as a template. Once it will get exported, after that, you will be able to dynamically create it, right? Because you are having that template. So you will be able to, in case if the same type of resources you wanted to create for say several different times, so you will be able to create it automatically without manual intervention. Okay, so there are several such facilities. Now suppose you wanted to delete the resource group. So the moment if I delete the resource group, everything within it will automatically get deleted. Okay, so let us delete it. Let's say I am deleting the resource group. So unlike the previous pattern, simply clicking on the delete can delete the thing accidentally also. So earlier, I mean, you might have seen that everywhere, we are having a delete. It will, it was just supposed to ask that, okay, are you sure you wanted to delete it? You press on yes or no, and then, it should get deleted. But now no longer that thing is there. Oh, okay. So every time you need to explicitly put the name of it so that it knows your intention that yes, really you want to delete it. Okay, so here you can say, okay, you need to type in this particular name, and then you say delete it. So once you will delete it, affected resources, there are 8 resources in this group which will get deleted. So see, you are deleting a resource group, and automatically it will apply to all of them. Now here it says apply force delete for selected virtual machine and virtual machine skill set. So even if you are deleting it, right, and until if you will not check mark it, if you will check mark it, it will forcefully delete them. Even if they have some dependencies or anything across, it will get deleted. But otherwise, in case if you have other dependencies, chances are that because of that dependency and other stuff, right, it may not get deleted. But if you click on this, then it will forcefully delete it. Now it clearly says is irreversible. You can't reverse it action. The action you are about to take can't be undone, right? Going further will delete this resource group and all the resources in it permanently. So If you are deleting it, you will be able to delete everything together. Okay, even if you are, even if you don't check it, it will delete it. Why? Because right now I do not have any dependencies, and see, the location of all of them is same, West US. So depending on the location, depending on the usage, and depending on the type, you can create your resource group. Okay, so now suppose if I'm deleting it, everything will get deleted. Okay, let's delete it. That's all. Now you don't need to wait for it. It is automatically functioning here. You see, right? And it will get deleted. So now, no need to worry about it. You just come out. As of now, you can see that it is still there, but it will get deleted once the action will get finished. Okay. Now let us create something. So you are creating. So first thing which you need to create, always remember. First thing, whatever be the thing you are doing in the Azure, the first thing which you need to do is create a resource group. Okay, either you do it explicit way or you do it in the implicit way, but you have to do it. That is the first thing. Okay, so let us create a resource group first. Now you are selecting a subscription. What subscription you are using? Free trial. Then you are using the resource group. So here you are using a resource group, or you are creating a resource group. Say I wanted to create it with the name of, say, virtual machines. Okay, so my resource group is with the name of virtual machines. So all the virtual machines and their parts, whatever is applicable for those virtual machine, will go in this particular resource group, virtual machine. Now, which reason we wanted to create this virtual group? Sorry, this resource group. So these are the reasons. So you can select any reason out here. So suppose you are selecting, normally the approach is you should be selecting it whatever is nearest to you. But another is that you can select it whatever is more applicable, whatever is beneficial for you or whatever is applicable to you, right? So here you can see that in front of it, nothing is written as free. So let us create any. So let me check if anything is free over here. No, because for resource group, there is no concept of free or cost. There is no cost associated with the resource group because it is a logical entity. Next important thing is the tag. Why you are creating tag? I explained you earlier. Anybody else? Guys, please speak out. No, it's not for easiness. For integration of resources. Okay, so guys, I'm going to quickly tell you, and then perhaps because we are reaching at the time, so I need to end it. But definitely today evening we will be having a session. So maybe in 1 minute or so we will end our session today because I have a hard stop, and then we will be doing it in the evening, and I will put that message in the Slack. Okay, so let us join in the evening also. Will that be good? Are you okay for the evening? Approximately, say, 5 p.m. Okay, but I'll confirm you on the Slack. Okay. Okay then. So, okay. So I mean, because it is already 12:59, so I need to, end the session. So quickly, I mean, the purpose of the tag is for our organizational point of view, to handle the costing and to know that where this costing is applicable for, right? So for example, if you have the costing related with, say, um, one department or another department, so accordingly you will be able to put the name of the tag. Okay, so that's how we do it. Okay, so let us, we need to end the session because I have a hard stop, and then we will continue it maybe in the evening. Thank you so much.